Hey everybody, this is Mike. Welcome back to my shop. This project I've got in here right now is nothing really high-tech or anything, so I wasn't going to film it, so I think I'm just going to I just thought I'd just throw the camera up and just kind of show you that I haven't been slacking or sitting back and doing nothing lately. So it's a 2002 Chevy Silverado 2500 HD with the Duramax and the Allison transmission. The client bought it, I don't know, like last summer, I guess. It has 180,000 miles on it. He hit me up asking me a couple things that he would like to do to it and what I would recommend. He kind of liked the way my son's 02 Duramax is set up. So we let him drive it, get a feel for it. Some people were telling him he wanted to level it up. Some people were telling him just go ahead and crank the keys up. Tried to explain to him that that's not really the right way to do it because of the upper ball joints and the stress and everything involved. And if you're going to do it properly and reorientate that upper ball joint and whatnot. We've been using the Cognito leveling kits here in our shop. They're a great product. We've had nothing but success with them. Haven't had any problems. I don't do a ton of them, but I've done enough of them to know that it's a good product. So anyway, so he brought it in. Actually, he ordered the parts last fall, and the parts were a couple months out. So he contacted me around Christmas, New Year's area and time frame, and said that he had just got a tracking number for the last of the parts. So I put him on the list, and we brought him in here last week and got it up on the lift and started ripping stuff apart. I'm just going to take you, I've already done the front suspension, the steering, so we ended up doing the upper A-arms, the new keys, Fox internal floating pistons, IFP, I think it's the 2.0 series shocks, the Cognito center link steering on these GMT 800 chassis. That center link, when you turn from left to right, can flop back and forth and accelerate the wear on the idler as well as the pitman arm joints. So, and actually the newer kits now have a forged bracket versus the earlier ones we were using 6-8 years ago were a fabricated bracket that bolted on under the pitman nut and the idler nut and then went over to a rod end and held the center link straight. So same principle, it's just the newer ones are now a forged material bracket versus the fabricated ones in the earlier kits. So let's see what else. Oh, they're heavy duty tie rods. Now some people will sleeve them. Sleeving them, we've done that as well. Either way, the tie rods on these are very anemic, so I suggest doing something. Sleeves work great. If you want the absolute best, go with a heavy duty tie rod, so you can eliminate that issue. While we had it in here, he took my sons for a drive and he kind of saw mine as well, and we convinced him, because the previous owner had straight piped this one. His wife really didn't like the sound of that, so we kind of helped him spend a little bit of money. I feel bad because I keep helping him spend money, but we ended up talking him into a bank system because he does plan on holding on to this truck for quite a while. Now there are other exhaust systems out there. Most of those are aluminized tubing, which is nothing wrong with that. They are lesser expensive kits. There's several of them that we've used that have fit okay. But the banks, there again, I've put, not a ton, probably half a dozen of these on over the last few years, over the years, 10 years. And there's just nothing that fits like the banks that I've seen. And the banks is stainless tubing and muffler and everything. So if you plan on keeping it for long term, I really recommend the banks. It is a little bit more money. It's a couple $100, few hundred, actually probably close to $300 more than the others. But you're getting a quality product. So I'm all about quality. So anyway, we talked him into that. So and then while he said that it was due for an oil change and a few things. So he asked while we had it on the lift if I'd do a service and stuff on it. So while we had it on the lift, I noticed the transmission fluid was a little dark. So I recommended, there again, I'm helping him spend money, but I recommended that we drop the pan, do a full service on the transmission, and then I'll take you around back and show you. There's kind of a wiring mess on the back trailer plug. The previous owner had put a B&W 16,000 pound hitch under it, which is a great hitch. I've run the Curt, I've got the Curt 15,000 on mine. I can't remember what one my son has on his, but I'm not a fan of the OEM GM hitches under these things. But when they put the hitch under, the wiring, they just left it hanging down underneath. And every time I open the shop door and walk in, that big old rat's nest of wires is staring at me. And it's kind of an eyesore. So, and it is a fairly clean truck. He's really done some nice detailing work on it in preparation for the mechanical side while he's waiting for parts. So I texted him a picture of it and asked him if he wanted me to, again, I'm not trying to spend his money for him, but he wants a quality vehicle back, something he can be proud of. And, you know, in my opinion, you have a nice vehicle. It's one of those when you walk away from it at a parking lot, you turn back and look at it. That's an indicator right there that you enjoy your ride. So I want him to have that experience. So that being said, he says, yeah, go ahead and fix all the above. So I got the transmission filter, fluids. We're going to tackle the plug in the back. I'm going to fabricate a new bracket for the plug. The plug's a good quality plug. It's just, it looks like they've got like plumber's tape or something strapping, holding it down. It's crooked. The wiring's all hanging down. So we're going to tidy all that up and make it look nice, and then do the exhaust system. I'll take you in here and show you the front suspension and steering's all done. I didn't document it just because it's simply pulling old parts off and putting new parts on. It's nothing high tech. It's nothing cool, if you will. So I didn't. And then, like I say, I just put some oil in it. I'm just doing the fuel filter on it now prior to the injection pump, and we're going to start working on the exhaust system and getting this thing buttoned up. I've been working on it about a week and a half now. Originally, the exhaust system I'd ordered the bank, so I was told 2 to 3 weeks out. So I contacted the client and said, "Hey, we're gonna have to reschedule you, bring you back in a few weeks in between other jobs, and do the exhaust system." Well, I got a call a couple of days ago saying that the exhaust system was here, so I ran and picked it up. I haven't let the customer know that the exhaust system is here, so when he comes to pick it up, all the exhaust and everything's going to be done. The truck will be completely done, so I'm hoping it'll be a nice surprise for him. So, all right, here we're just prepping the new filter. Got the old, got the water sensor here out. We're just pulling the O-ring off the water sensor, discarding that, putting the new one on. I like to take a little bit of Silglide, and just about need to get a new tube of Silglide. Run around you can use grease, oil. I just don't like to use, I've used Silglide on O-rings for 30 years, and I just continue to use it on all my O-rings. So it just helps everything glide together nice and easy without dragging and tearing that O-ring as it's being reassembled. So we'll take a little whoops. Snug this up a little. You don't need to get really crazy with this. The O-ring's what's doing the sealing. It's not necessarily how tight you get it, but you do want it snug enough. On the other O-ring, I like to go around and just put a little bit in the groove every, I don't know, 30, 45 degrees, something like that. Then put the O-ring down in the groove, and it will force a little bit of the other out. Then you just run your finger around it, and again, you don't need to cake it on, but you just want to put a thin layer around it to help with installation. I usually run around inside and outside and just take the little bit off. Okay, that's ready to go on. So here's what we've got. We've got the Cognito upper control arms, and on the OEM ones, the ball joint, top of the ball joint is in the same plane as the arms. So when you level it up, when you in essence pick that up, you're basically preloading that ball joint to its maximum travel. So any upward movement is going to just pound away at that ball joint, and you're going to accelerate the wear and have a failure. So the Cognito ones angle this upper ball joint. You can see it's at full droop, and I'm not quite to the full range of the motion. With the vehicle sitting down on it at ride height, it's going to be pretty much what we call the neutral position, or that ball joint will be pretty much centered up. And it's a bolt-in ball joint rather than the press-in from the OEM. I touched up the chassis paint here a little bit, and I actually just spilled a little bit of fuel changing that fuel filter. But you got the Fox internal floating pistons. These are a non-reservoir shock, but they are rebuildable. Let's see what else. Oh, the heavy-duty tie rods thread right into the center link, but they're massive. They're about a 2-inch diameter outer piece with I think there's like a 1 3/8 inch ball, and then a 1-inch shank coming into a heavy-duty forged tie rod end. So that's all installed, Loctited at the inner side, and torqued to spec out here at the knuckle. Again, once ride height sits down on this, everything's going to be kind of sitting in the neutral position. I centered up, for the time being, I just kind of centered up the adjustments to pretty much set the camber at as close to eyeball as 0. And the same thing with the toe. The owner knows he's going to have to take it from here right to an alignment shop and have it aligned. But I just set it up just kind of by eye and centered everything, and it's, well, maybe not quite, yeah, pretty close to being centered in the adjustments. So we'll see where it sits when I set it down at ride height, if I need to do anything prior to him coming and picking it up. I'm not sure if you can see inside there or not. If you look down in here in the steering, so here's your upper A-arm, there's your sway bar. If you look down inside there, you can see the probably the forged bracket that comes off the center link over here. Center link over here with a rod end, and then over here to the idler bolt. So those get torqued back in place. Now on the idler, there's 2 bolts that hold the idler into the bracket on the frame. I have not done one of these yet, that I've been able to get that lower nut off the idler because of the interference of this cross member. So you have to undo those 2, and I believe they're a 21 millimeter nut and bolt head. So you have to undo those. The bolts usually come out pretty good. Even with a high mileage truck like this, the bolts come out pretty easy. And then I can just get a pry bar and cant the idler in there a little bit, get the nut off. I'll break it loose with it still bolted solid, and then just twist it a little bit in there, pop the nut off, put the bracket on, start the nut, and then push it back into place, put the bolts back in. I usually put a little bit of anti-seize on the shank of the bolts so they don't seize and rust into the idler, and then tighten them back up, and then go ahead and tighten the nut up, and the sleeve over here on the joint gets torqued. If there's a silver and a gold, I believe the silver is the fine thread SAE, and the gold is a metric. The kits come with both of them. This one uses a silver one, and it gets torqued to 85 foot-pounds. Then once the idler and the joint are torqued in place, you go ahead and tighten up these 2 nuts to draw to kind of preload that rod end on the bracket. And then you'll do the same thing on the pitman arm side. Now on the pitman arm, you want to make sure you get that pitman arm tight. That gets torqued to 184 foot-pounds, but you want to make sure you're messing with steering here. Same thing with all your rod ends and or your tie rod ends. You're messing with steering here, so please, please, please make sure you double and triple check all of your fasteners, because that can be detrimental if something comes apart going down the road. So whether you, your family, or somebody else, you don't want that burden on your shoulders. So make sure you double and triple check. When I'm working on steering, brakes, things like that, I don't even like being disturbed in the shop. I generally won't answer my phone, anything like that. And then I have a habit of, once I get everything done, tools pulled away, I'll go back and double check everything, because that's not something you want to forget to tighten. So I usually end up doing it 2-3 times, I know, just because I'm overly paranoid about them. So anyway, So this is the Cognito. This is basically the Cognito Leveling Kit. It's, like I said, it's a really good quality kit. The components are good quality. I have not had any issues in all the ones I've installed, so can't recommend them enough. All right, let's see. I just did the fuel filter. I added engine oil to it. I think I'm going to do the exhaust before I tackle the drop the transmission pan. So let's get it up in the air, and I'm going to go ahead and tackle this exhaust. Here, I'm going to give you a quick rundown. Here's the Banks Monster exhaust. Now I go with the 4-inch. I believe some companies offer a 5-inch also. The 5-inch you might get a little deeper tone, but the 4-inch I've found on a daily driver is going to sound great, and also not have so many interference issues as a 5-inch. Around your spare tire, around your hoop over your axle, everything with a 5-inch is just tighter, and you're really not gaining anything unless you're putting a shit ton of fuel through this engine and really building power. I still like the 4-inch. So let me take you over to the bench and kind of show you what the Banks 4-inch Monster exhaust consists of. Here is everything laid out. You've got your downpipe, comes down off your turbo, back to the flange where your catalytic converter would be. If you do not have a catalytic converter, which this is a 2002, and it's not a California model, so it's I believe it's the FE RPC code, it's not going to have a catalytic converter, so it will have this intermediate pipe that goes in here. Otherwise, it would bolt right up to the front of the cat, and then behind the cat is where you would continue on. It comes with a nice OE quality gasket. Obviously, you get your Banks stickers, so it's up to him whether he wants to put those on or not. Nice stainless steel band clamps. These are Murray's, I believe. Yep, Murray's. Let's see. You have your over the axle, or yeah, this comes back out of where your muffler goes. Then you got your over the axle hoop. Again, this is all, I believe this is 304 stainless, mandrel bent. And then you have your exit tube. So it comes over the axle, tips down into here, and goes out. And this client opted to go with the polished stainless tip. Very, very high quality. I've had mine on for 14 years now. I've had mine on, and it'll get a little tarred and stuff, but usually a little bit of quadruple aught stainless steel and some Bush's stainless and chrome polish, and it'll shine up just like brand new. Like I said, I've had mine on for 14 years now, and it's still, when I polish it up, it still looks brand new. So they also offer it in a black Cerakote coating, which is kind of a matte black, but this truck's got a little bit of bright work on it, so the owner opted to go with the polished. And then here is the muffler. And I believe the muffler, it used to be anyway, muffler's also polished. Yep, muffler's polished as well. And it is good sounding muffler. So 304 stainless, I believe, on that as well. So like I say, very, very nice quality kit. I'm just wrapping things up here. Put the tires, front tires and wheels on, got those torqued in place. I got the camber roughly set, camber caster kind of roughly set in the middle, toe roughly set. So he will definitely have to take it in for a alignment as soon as he leaves here. And I just dropped the transmission pan and serviced the transmission. So I got the pan all torqued back in place. The spin-on filter is replaced. Let's see, the exhaust. I've got the Banks exhaust system that showed up. So you can see up in the, oh, probably making everybody sick, going up into the band clamp right there, comes down. There's a transmission mount right there. And flange. And then next to each of the band clamps on these, they clamp somewhat okay. These big heavy exhaust systems, when they're bouncing around, have a tendency to twist even with the clamps as tight as you can get them. So I usually put a little stitch weld also between, or just outside of the band, so that in an area that you can get a die grinder in there and knock it down if you need to. Just in case you ever has to be removed, it's fairly easy to knock that off and remove. Comes back, goes through a Banks Monster stainless steel muffler, up over the axle. Uses all factory hangers. Just put the new Fox 2.0 IFP shocks on it. And it exits back here, out through the tip. I did have to notch right here. I had to notch, put a little notch in the hitch. It has a BMW 16,000 pound hitch under it, and it goes a little further forward than the OEM one. So I just took the plasma cutter, put a piece of metal over the tube here. I didn't have the polished tip on yet. And I just took a plasma cutter and cut it and then radiused it, touched up the paint. So right now we're just getting ready to mount the toe plug on it. The plug was mounted, or the plug was mounted down here. It hung about 4.5 inches below the hitch, and the wiring come down through here, and it was just it looks like a rat's nest, so it was pretty hideous looking. So I made a bracket that mounts up under the bumper, so the bottom of it will still be about equal to the bottom of the hitch, maybe even a little higher, to hold it up nice and tight. And then the wiring is going to come up above the hitch, and I'll tie wrap that up in there. So that'll clean up the back end of this a lot. So, all right, I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then we'll set her down on the ground and put fluids in it and there's the stance of the truck. I just backed it off of the lift and got back from a road test. I just got the camber caster toe kind of roughed in. It's got to go from here right to an alignment shop and have the front end aligned, but for the most part, it's done. I'll go ahead and put the camera over by the exhaust and let you hear what it sounds like. I don't think the camera will do it justice. It actually sounds really good, a lot better than where it was straight piped, but I'll put the camera over here and let you decide for yourself. All right, well, I appreciate you watching. This wasn't a direct step-by-step how to do, not even close, but I've had the truck in here for probably about a week and a half. It wasn't a huge project. It's just only an hour here, a couple hours there. Had a lot else going on this last week, and then waiting for the exhaust to kind of show up so that I could completely finish it up rather than have the owner of the truck bring it back in a few weeks. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. Again, it's just another project I can knock off the list of the things I'm working on here in the shop. So I appreciate you following along. I welcome the comments, and if you haven't liked and subscribed, please do so. We have more projects coming up in the future. Thank you very much for watching.